Chapter 1. QUEEL. The trip from the airport. Emissary for the next hour. Although traffic was clear, the turbulence on the ground was still rippling from the studio. Emissary's trusted duo, friends, Lotus and Ebony, and her yet-to-meet, Astakers. Superstar Astakers, working towards super porn co-star, starring Emissary's man, Ebony. Queel had set his plan into motion in his attempts to overthrow Ebony from his throne and reigning Romeo in Emissary's life. The videos and sexual tyranny that Astakers had aggressively engaged the trigger towards Ebony were without a doubt working. Ebony's charm, machismo and attractiveness met his appetite for a woman. A very attractive woman who now had a hold on him. Even blackmail was a card that Ebony couldn't forsake in his afterthoughts on the taste of another woman's thighs. Queel hadn't yet foolproof his plans with a backup exit to secure his career if things didn't go as planned, but right now his expectations in meeting and being in the presence of a valuable asset in his portfolio had come into fruition. Not only was Queel in Emissary's presence, but live and available to intercept the couple's log in the chronicles of romance, sex and the relationship they now developed in between their careers. Not only had trusting their bodies with one another been blossoming in the sheets, but it was understood the relationship meant a great deal to both of them, enough that unexpected paths trodden by threats and nude bodies belonging to someone else, as in Ebony's head being in between Astaker's hips, might not go down well being exposed. Queel liked all of it. It was hors d'oeuvres, and he, being a champion sex game master, liked women as pawns as well as in front of a camera, his play toys. Queel was attractive, handsome, talented and not impulsive in his plans. Queel was undisturbed at another man handling Astakera's body. He saw it as a challenge at winning her back into his arms. He wasn't worried about Astakera's ambition in joining him in his plans to bring bigger plans into the picture, literally. Queel considered himself grooming Astakers during the sexual exploits they'd had the months preceding Astakers meeting Ebony. Now that Queel was looking into the face of Emissary, his own lust tingled as well as tickled him. He couldn't help but to ease back into his seat across from Emissary and show a smile. "How was your flight?" asked Queel as he lifted a drinking glass towards Emissary, orange juice. Emissary accepted the glass and told Queel all was well. Emissary sipped the orange juice, finding herself coming out of her overcoat to relax during the trip. Queel then extended a pillow to Emissary to rest her neck, which she accepted. Adjusting in the seat, Emissary asked Queel how were things at the studio and if he liked her studio, finding the best equipment at his disposal. "Yes. Everything serves its purpose quite well," replied Queel with a conning look on his face as he looked at Emissary up and down across from him with much appreciation. Only to withhold himself from the temptation to join in on the sexual affairs circulating his thoughts that preceded the trip out to pick up Emissary. Queel continued to reserve any advances towards Emissary. The thoughts and secret Queel was holding about Ebony was dangerously also a thirst in his mouth to see where it would lead in the upcoming months. Queel had already decided he was going to have sex with Emissary. It was only a matter as when this was going to happen, not if she would let it. Queel stated to Emissary that he had taken the liberty to book a suite near the airport given the distance to the studio and the early flight if she'd join him before they continued to the other side of the city. Emissary considered Queel not to be a threat in Ebony's eyes, brought in by Lotus, given they'd been all communicating quite well, and stated that it would give them an opportunity to talk professionally. "Of course," replied Queel. Dressed in a black Christian Dior suit, a second skin of salvage cologne draped Queel's body well enough to make an impression on Emissary. He was pleased to take note. Why hadn't Queel pulled some Grace Jones strange tantrum about as to why Emissary wasn't all over him? You know the scene in Boomerang where Jones plays Strange, the model who she thinks no one can resist or they must be gay. He was handsome, wealthy in looks, and he knew that he was good in bed, so why him? The one who usually would have turned the trip into an opportunity to exploit the time alone with the personal attention he desired and liked to gift out. Queel was making gifts. He wanted more. He had acquainted himself with Emissary from a distance and he was going to hold on to the distance a little longer. Yeah. That sounds like a good conclusion to come to in between two gorgeous people. Queel found himself attracted to Emissary more so in person. Emissary was confident and had shared her success early on with her studio investment that had provided for Ebony's use in the city while away, his own brand, the poetry and romance in getting to know Ebony very well. Now the studio that been invaded by Astakara's sexual advances and a romp in the private loft with Ebony that almost happened according to Queel's blueprint in 3D motion. Now a part of Queel's private collection he hoped would expand in the very near future. Emissary and Queel entered the suite together to relax and take a break before meeting up with everyone else. Emissary had plans to call Ebony to let him know she was on the way to him. Ebony too had been anticipating by now a call from Emissary. A call that wasn't going to happen as Queel gave into another opportunity. Chapter 1. Queel. The trip from the airport. Emissary for the next hour. Although traffic was clear, the turbulence on the ground was still rippling from the studio,